Hi, Brad Cousins, CEO of Engage Human Capital Strategies and also a Vistage chair. And today we're covering the topic really around mental health and recognizing those signs. And to do that, I've got one of my awesome Vistage members I'm lucky enough to have with Scott Shelby. Scott Shelby owns Family Solutions Counseling. And so I brought him in kind of as a resource to kind of give us a little background on what we've got going on. So Scott, if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and Family Solutions.
Yeah, Brad. I do own Family Solutions here in North Louisiana. We're a multidisciplinary practice that covers mental health, all forms of counseling, psychological testing, medication management. We also provide pediatric therapy with occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy. We also have a comprehensive autism treatment center that provides diagnosis and treatment for children diagnosed with autism.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks, Scott. The reason I asked Scott if he would do this is I've been hearing a lot from CEOs and employers, business owners about, hey, I've got all my people remote. How do I ensure that they're happy, and how do I ensure that they're doing well? And some of my employees are already kind of struggling with isolation and different things like that. And so I thought, who better to talk about that than the best mental health professional I know? So Scott, let's talk about, I think, and of course you and I talked a bit about this earlier, but, let's talk a little bit about anxiety and fear and kind of just, can you give us an overall about what's going on right now, pretty much with everybody, I think, in the world, the U.S., definitely in our neck of the woods around, the coronavirus and all this anxiety and fear. So can you educate us a little bit on that?
Right. That's a broad question, but I think some of the basics of what you're asking about and what a lot of people are feeling is that the world has really changed in the last 3 or 4 weeks from what we know to be normal and stable. And a lot of people are trying to figure out what the new normal is. And anytime that you have a significant shift like that, it does create, some feelings of uncertainty. What's going to happen? Where are things going to land? How are things going to shake out with work, with family, with school, travel plans for the summer? Graduations, ball seasons, a lot of things that we were really counting on and thought were going to happen. It turns out that that's not going to be the case for a while. So just being able to reevaluate where we are, what the new sense of normal is for us and our family, and how to adjust to that is how we can maneuver through this in a healthy way. And I think a little anxiety is definitely expected. Some of us may experience quite a bit more anxiety, and I think given the circumstances, that's very normal and very expected. And I think there's a lot of methods and strategies that we all could do that could help us calm down and take an opportunity to kind of just relax and breathe and realize that we are going to be okay. And it just takes being mindful of those things and being intentional with our time.
Great. It's funny. You mentioned, the last 3 or 4 weeks I was talking to somebody and we were talking about, I don't know, some information or news or a document or something that came out like a week and a half ago. And they were making the comment that, that seems like it was months ago. It's this whole time is changed. What used to, a day now seems like a week seems like a month. And I assume that's because we're struggling with the uncertainty. So in your mind, is it that uncertainty that kind of is driving a lot of the anxiety and manifesting in fears?
I think so. And, just for some businesses that were open a couple of weeks ago, and now they're mandated for their employees to stay at home and work from home. And we get a lot of our encouragement and basically uh, our opportunities to really have a sense of self through others. And when we're isolated and we don't have that same type of interaction with people, it has the ability to be tough on us. So any ways that you can stay connected to your coworkers, and as important, your friends, family, through FaceTime, through Zoom, phone calls, just ways to maintain those relationships, because those are important. And when we're encouraged to limit those interactions face to face, it definitely has opportunities to create a lot of distress in our lives.
Yeah, it's funny. You hear, they're telling you the social distance. I think it would have been better if they would have said physical distance off the bat, because I'm seeing creative ways. And I think I saw it somewhere. We're humans. We were meant to hug and to be near each other, and we're social creatures. We're a society, and I think it's kind of interesting to see some of the unique ways. We have with our Vistage group, we have a Thirsty Thursday happy hour. We just kind of get together and sit on Zoom, and it's kind of interesting because you get a different, people are inviting you into their home that way, which normally we don't do, right? You get to see people's dogs and people's kids come in and out of the pictures. And I see that even with a lot of other groups outside of that. Businesses are doing unique things like huddles in the morning and those other types of things. Do you think that that's part of, I know you and I talked about this. I was getting some tips and tricks from you earlier, and you were saying it's really important to kind of stay centered, and that creates stability. Is that, can you tell us a little more about that? Is the socializing and interacting as much as possible part of that, staying centered?
Yeah, it definitely is. So really the things that we know to be true throughout the day, throughout our lives, we just need to remind ourselves that those are still here. We may have to engage in those types of relationships in different ways, but they are there. Like you said, the morning huddles, getting together with friends in new ways, reminding yourself of just, past difficulties that we have overcome. And I think just reminding us that we are going to get through this. It's going to be some challenging times, but it's not anything that we can't overcome. And typically when things are challenging, we need to have help from others that we can rely on, family, friends, coworkers, to help us do that. And I think we need to remind ourselves that we could be that hope in someone else's day by giving some inspiration, some good words, and not focus on all the negativity that's out there, and really focus on what's positive, what we do have now, and making sure that we have the things that we need to be strong for our families at home.
Gotcha. So yeah, and I found that interesting when we were talking about this, but the concept of truths and untruths, and staying present and recognizing in the present right now what is true. And the truth is, I'm here, I'm present, I've got my kids, I've got my wife, I've got my family, I've got great friends like you. But really, I think the interesting part is the whole dynamic of untruths and how those lead to anxiety, fear. There's a lot of rhetoric spinning around on the news and a lot of things, and people get sucked into that. And I guess just talk a little bit about untruths and how those lead to unhealthy, a lot of unhealthy behaviors and things surrounding, engorging yourself in news and the negativity surrounding it.
Yeah, I think one of the things is just limit amount of intake you're getting into your life. I think with 24-hour news, we could turn the news on when we wake up and watch it all day long. And I don't think that's going to help overall decrease our anxiety. There may be a lot of truth on the news. You want to be careful of what you see on Facebook. There's a lot of posts that are not quite accurate, and you just want to make sure what you are getting is truthful, so that you can basically know that that what you're getting is reliable information for you to make some decisions. And just ways to limit your intake of news and those things is to find other things to do with your time. Get outside, go for a walk. Just driving back and forth to work, I've seen more families outside playing basketball, playing wiffle ball in the front yard. I've seen more people going on walks. There's a lot of people that are out and about doing things that really help, not just relieve anxiety, but just help us stay active. And one of the best cures for anxiety has always been action. And sometimes when we're anxious, when we're uncertain, we freeze. And when we're paralyzed in that way, it really reduces our number of options that we have. So if we can know, hey, we can watch some funny movies on Netflix. We can check in with friends and family. Basically, just being that kind person that can help give some encouragement to others, and more importantly, is find things to do outside. I hear Home Depot is full of people buying flowers and bushes, and a lot of my friends, I hear they've run out of things to do. They've run out of places to clean in their home, and they have they've weeded all the flower beds, and they've cleaned everything, and they don't know what to do now. So I'd say get out and do some things outside. The sun's shining, and get outside and throw the ball with your kids, and really make the best use of this time that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, I think, there's a couple of things. I think it's funny. My wife and I were talking just last night at dinner that usually our road is full of landscaping trucks, people mowing yards. They're all gone. Everybody's mowing their own yard, and I think it's more that they have time and they want to get outside, and which I think is a bonus of this whole this whole crisis is people are finding that maybe there's a better way to live. Maybe it's not all bad that I can spend a lot of really good quality time with my family. And so I know us, for instance, of course, initially we started with a lot of rain, but here lately we've been taking walks as a family, good hour-long walks through trails through the neighborhood and stuff. And just, I think the quality of life is a little better when we're not in that rat race. So I think we can find comfort in that and be more present with our family, make the most of the time we've got.
And I think that with a lot of the uncertainty with employment and those sorts of things is a legitimate concern that people have. And I think as the government programs and employers, get things in line for the employees, like just like what everybody's been trying to do for the last couple of weeks. A lot of that anxiety is going to be removed, and they'll know that their finances are going to be taken care of in various ways. Whenever that can settle in, and we know, all right, we're not going to lose our home. We're going to be able to keep our lights on. We're going to be able to continue to put food on the table. That's really at the core of what we need for survival. And when we're able to do that and to have consistency in that, that's going to help take some of that uneasiness away from the financial picture, which allows us to open up to doing some other things. And I think that's why, just with any uncertainty, any big decisions, throughout the day, just take a note of what's good and what's positive and what's true. And when you can have an inventory like that, and at the end of the day, which a lot of people are having more time around the dinner table now than they ever have, and that's really good for strengthening the family. And when you can do that, and you can talk to your kids and spouse and family members about what you found during the day to be helpful, positive, and helping you stay grounded, it opens up that conversation for your kids and others to see you being confident that things are going to be okay, reminding everyone that there is a lot of good in the world, even with uncertainty. And I think that conversation is good to have because I think kids look up to their parents to make sure things are okay. And setting that standard will help the kids cope and deal, not to eliminate all stress and worry, but it can definitely help at least open up the opportunity to talk and for kids to share their fears as well. And for the parents to validate those fears, normalize their fears. And if you don't have the answers, hey, we can look on the internet and try to find a reliable site. We can seek out a professional to help navigate these uncertain times. But most importantly, that we're given that opportunity to share how we feel, normalize it, and to be able to seek direction in any number of ways.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that concept about assuming the positive leadership role. You can lead your family and your coworkers and everybody by really focusing on that positive and leaning into the moment and pushing everybody along. But let's say you've done all that, Scott, and I think most people, if we lean in and we're being that positive influence, we'll get most of the people. But what are some signs? When should we be on the lookout of a family member, a coworker, a friend, anybody within our orbit that they're struggling with this, that maybe they're not able to pivot out of anxiety and fear, and they're what are some signs? When should we turn them over to someone such as yourself?
Yeah, I think any of the basic symptoms, if you feel like your anxiety or emotions have skyrocketed in one way or another, if we're sleeping too much, if we're not sleeping enough, if we're overeating, if we're not eating enough, basically if we kind of got thrown off our normal day-to-day routine, and it's been that way for a long period of time, I would say seek out some additional help. If friends and family, talking with them doesn't reduce your symptoms, there's mental health now has the most access to mental health care than we ever have before through the telehealth and video conferencing. So it's easier now to be connected on your time and without having to come into an office, which sometimes can be creating anxiety. And most people that seek out help traditionally wait about 3 to 6 months before they actually seek out the help. And now that we're in a situation like this, who knows what 3 to 6 months will look like from now. But if you are experiencing those symptoms, I would say reach out and find someone to talk to, because there's a lot of very experienced mental health professionals that are communicating just like we are today through teleconference, and that's something that most everyone can have access to today.
Yeah, great. I think the barrier being broken down with telehealth is a great thing, and great. So, well, Scott, I think we're bumping up against time. So great tips for us. I think it was a great conversation for everyone around anxiety, fear, and really how to get out of that mindset and shift over into a much better mindset. So hey, if you're struggling, give Scott a call, I'm sure, or connect with him on LinkedIn or somewhere, and I'm sure he can help or refer you to either one of his counselors, or if you're across the U.S. to somebody maybe in your neck of the woods. So Scott, thanks a lot for sharing this with us.
All right, thanks, Brett.